flatbread to use. You gotta work with what you got. Don't sweat it until you hit the top. Work with what you got. Don't forget it till you hit the spot. You gotta work with what you got. Don't sweat it until you hit the top. Work with what you got. Don't forget it till you hit the spot. Work with what you got. Work with what you got. Work with what you got. Work with what you got till you hit the spot.
Hello and welcome to Next Up Accessories, where we connect your next up and vehicle personalization. What is vehicle personalization? Well, that is a process, a proven process to help you make more money presenting accessories to your customers in the showroom. It will increase your paycheck as a salesperson. It will give your customer exactly the car they want, and it will skyrocket your CSI. According to Eric Gonzalez, a person that we've had on, one of our guests, a successful sales professional, making vehicle personalization touch every part of your dealership is essential. If your accessory sales is not currently touching every part of your dealership, then this is the podcast for you. For more information about vehicle personalization, visit us at insigniagroup.com. If you are a customer of Insignia, thank you for your business. We appreciate that very much, especially in these times. Remember to check out our blogs online, lots of best practice tips, and make sure you subscribe to keep up to date. That is, subscribe to our blog and also like our Facebook page and go out to our YouTube page, watch our videos out there. Just become an Insignia expert. It'd be awesome. We would appreciate that. And every now and then, drop us a line, tell us what's on your mind, and let's engage in some conversation. So, we want to thank Side Hustle for the use of their song. Jimmy Mondragon is in the house. Yes, man, that is a great tune. That is called Work With What You Got. You can find Side Hustle at sidehustletheband.com. And yeah, so we're feeling pretty good out there right now. Mid-July, we have an awesome show today. We're so excited. Rebecca Wynn is going to be with us in just a few minutes. And we found Rebecca through an article in the Wall Street Journal and talked about her love of Subarus and how she started at a very young age to update that Subaru. So we're going to get into all of that. She is the market manager for ClassicCars.com. So before we get there, Cameron is backstage. Really appreciate you running the tech show today. Thank you so much, Cameron. Let's go to our first slide and make me a little bit smaller so our fans can see this slide. So today, an email came out from NADA. And if you don't subscribe to this email post on a daily basis, they send out 2 emails a day. This is totally not, they're not paying me to say this, right? I'm just saying it because I have found it a very useful twice a day email newsletter that comes out from NADA. The first one in the morning, which is the one I've highlighted here, talks about car sales right now. According to Car Gurus, car sales are not off that much, and people are making do with what they have to work with. And so I wanted to speak to this a little bit. So wanted to talk a little bit about the NADA newsletters that come out. So there's twice. In the first part of the day, this Top Stories comes out where they source some really good stories from around the automotive journalistic segment. And then in the afternoon, they give you a little recap of the day, which goes into the stocks and winners and losers and all that kind of stuff. So I found it really, really valuable. So go out and subscribe to that to stay up to date with things. But speaking about this particular topic, and that is car sales during a pandemic, I think this is going to be probably one of the most surprising things when people look back at this time, that the car sales business really did take a contraction, but not that bad. And it has come back. We fortunate enough to talk with a lot of our dealer customers on a daily basis. And I was talking to a general manager this week of a very large dealer group up in Ohio. And he reported that, yep, in the early days, it was pretty scary. They made lots of radical moves to make sure that they were well positioned. And by June, things were getting so much back to normal from the car sales standpoint, but they were finding they were selling more cars with less people. So speaking to our audience and car sales professionals right now, if you are working right now and you are selling cars, be thankful. If you are one of those car sales people that are not working right now, this is the time to really hone in on your skills so you can get back in the game and get back there. I think this is going to be a permanent situation. And what I mean by that is we're going to find that through technology and through the use of customers coming to us through the internet, we're going to find that stores are going to be able to do more with less. So that's both a scary thing for those that are in the business, and it's also an opportunity for those that are in the business to get better at being in the business. So I encourage you to continue to learn all that you can, keep doing your training, and keep making vehicle personalization a key part of your success, because it does put more money in your pocket when you help your customer realize the vehicle that they really want when they come out of the dealership. So I'm going to take a look at a few folks that are watching, and then we're going to get right back to it. Let's see. I hear your radio voice again. I get to hear your radio voice again. Who's that? Me? Who's talking about that? Anyway, yeah, I told this story last night on another podcast. My mom sat me down very early on and said, David, you have a face for radio. And then you have a voice for newspaper. So here's a notebook and a pen. So go start writing. So no, my mom really didn't say that, but I like to joke. So welcome to those that are on right now. Kevin, welcome back. Good to have you back. And thanks for joining in. So we are going to get, so Cameron, you can do your little shuffle. We're going to get right to our guest, Rebecca Wynn. There she is. Oh, wait, there we go. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So let me introduce you to our audience, and then we'll ask you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. So like I said, we discovered, like the rest of America, maybe during a Wall Street Journal article that we read that her Subaru was the failing suspension, so it led her to buy this new aftermarket suspension for this vehicle. And really, you started to kind of rebuild the whole thing, from almost like the ground up.
The domino effect.
So Rebecca grew up in a car-loving family. When she was 5 years old, Rebecca's father taught her how to change the oil. That's pretty awesome. Later, her older brother taught her how to drive a stick shift on that 2003 Subaru Impreza WRX. So that's the super one. And that became your first car at 16. Rebecca professionally covers the automotive industry and automotive sports by way of being a photographer, an enthusiast, really a journalist. I read a number of your articles as the marketing manager right now for Classic Cars. But you've really been in the industry now for about 7 or 8, 9 years, including the time at the aftermarket companies. And so welcome to the show. Welcome to Next Up Accessories. And what did I miss? Tell us a little bit more about your love of cars and just I mean, was it really truly a DNA thing, or you know,
Um,
or did you,
yeah.
or was it like, sure, Dad, whatever, I'll change the oil.
Well, it started off in a functional sense. So, yes, my dad was a little more mechanically inclined, but it was always a conversation of function. So, yes, he taught me how to change your oil, but it wasn't like, here's some performance upgrades that you can consider. Since I got that, mechanical mindset early on, so that definitely helped translate to where I'm at now. But in my family, I'm kind of the only one that's into cars as of now. But I did get a lot of it from my brother. But there was a moment in time where I kind of had to reach out to the Subaru community to extend that passion into it is now. And beyond the car and being a marketing manager for ClassicCars.com, I also helped found a car show called the Future Collector Car Show. We had our 5th annual not last year, but last January, before COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
And we had a successful event, had about 12,000 people attend. So it's quite the initiative, but it's great because, being part of the collector car industry, I've definitely noticed that the next generation of collectors aren't as involved or could be more involved. So with this show, we're kind of taking an educational approach to the collector car hobby.
Oh, that's cool. So talk a little bit more about that, in terms of, so the foundation of that show is to attract those that might think they want to be car collectors in the future. Is it,
Definitely.
or is it
Um,
geared towards young people? I guess geared towards both young people and people my
Absolutely,
age who
both.
might say, yeah, one day.
Definitely both. It's even the older generation that may be leaving the hobby or, passing on the hobby, because at the end of the day, a future collector is inspired by current collectors, right? So we create this environment that's welcoming to every type of enthusiast, every level of enthusiast, so that you can intermingle and kind of find your niche if you want to find a niche. We feature vehicles of any condition, so it could be highly modified, all original, restored, so on and so forth, and it can be of any make, model, or year. So we're not biased to literally anything. We just really take into consideration the collector car value because nowadays in this new industry, what is collectible has definitely changed. Modified vehicles back in the day, unless if it was a muscle car, wasn't, you weren't getting more value the more you modified your car. It used to
Yeah.
be all original called for the big bucks. But as the passion grows, we are now connecting with that aftermarket market because of the heritage. So, perfect example, our best of show winner was a Mazda RX-7, highly modified, but it featured a lot of aftermarket parts that you can't get. You can't get nowadays. So then it makes it rare and almost part of its original history. So the market's changing. It's really exciting.
Well, that's awesome. So I think this is a perfect time because I want to stay on this topic. I think this is a perfect time, Cameron, to bring in, we can talk about my classic car. Well, it's not really my classic car, but so when you and I were chatting yesterday, right before our live promo, I went out on the classiccars.com and I found what was my car in terms, not like my car, but the car I had, my very first car was one of these Toyota Celica Supras. And it was a very specific like EFI Celica Supra. Now, just look at the price of these vehicles and what you're talking about. It absolutely connects to this. I bought mine for cash. I think for $2,500 from an elderly lady, and I bought it with like 50,000 miles in '89. So it was 10 years old. And I absolutely drove it into the ground. I all through college, as I was, going through college, it finally blew up on me. And literally, you can go buy one now for 16 grand. I can go buy a new car, for 16 grand. So that is, that's partly outrageous and it's partly
Right.
awesome.
It's that nostalgia. That's what really drives our market is nostalgia because Yes, there's obviously the ones that are like rare one-offs and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's connection that we have with these vehicles. And it's also the passion that we have for the community, right? You probably have memories with that car. And as you get back into those types of cars, there's a whole new community that you can connect with. And it's crazy the type of common ground you can find with people that you normally wouldn't. So
That's awesome. All right, Cameron, it wasn't a particularly attractive car. I called mine the Enterprise.
It is now.
Yeah, right. And mine was black, so it had a little bit more cred than the cream colored one. I like the lime green one. I didn't really look too deeply into that one, but so when this future car collector show, yep. During what time of season is it? Is it right? Is it in SEMA season or is it some?
Oh, heck no. We don't want to compete with SEMA.
Yeah, okay.
Which is coming up and I'm really excited for. But no.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
In January every year here in Arizona. We're working on expanding it, but obviously 2020 was not the year to do it.
Right.
It kicks off Arizona Auction Week. So really into that collector car hobby.
Perfect. And then so you had 12,000 last year in 2019?
2020. So January 2020.
Before okay.
Yeah, I always say last year, but it's this year, but the last one.
Right. Yes, me too. I've started writing 2021 just because I'm just totally done with.
We're all ready for it.
So now, what do you do specifically for ClassicCars.com?
So I am their marketing manager. I handle all of their digital marketing efforts, branding, awareness, and all of that. I also work directly with some of our partners to make sure that we also are, supporting their initiatives because at the end of the day, the industry thrives in a collaborative manner. And then I'm also their event coordinator for the Future Collector Car Show.
Cool. Awesome. And then part of that, now, so ClassicCars.com is a platform, just like we were looking at, to find cars that you're looking to purchase.
So it's, we say we're an online marketplace that connects buyers and sellers together. We have about 4 million visitors per month, so 4 million potential buyers, and about 40,000, give or take, cars for sale at a given time.
Nice. Okay. And then you also have an offshoot, which you put a lot of content out on, which is the journal, which is some of the articles. So tell us a little bit about that. So I guess that's a way to kind of further connect with those car enthusiasts.
Right. And it also supports the market, right? Keeping our enthusiasts or potential sellers, potential buyers informed on some of the either some of the history or sometimes it's the most recent news. For example, with the Bronco coming out, obviously we're going to see some sort of shift in the market value of the older Broncos. So we definitely want to keep them informed. So it's the journal, journal.classiccars.com. It's an award-winning editorial website, and we have some fantastic writers. Some of them you might actually know that they have published books. So we have Larry Edsel, Bob Golphin, Andy Reid is a great market analyzing content writer. Then we have a managing editor named Tom Stoller. So we have a great editorial team, and it's a great way to close the circle. We have buyers and sellers that come to educate themselves on current vehicles for sale, but then it also kind of ties in what's kind of happening in the world as far as the automotive industry.
So cool. So I think what's neat about this conversation is I was thinking about it before the show. On the show, you and I represent points on a continuum. So Insignia and Next Up Accessories is all about the beginning point of that continuum where someone purchases that car, the new car, and then they travel down that continuum over time, essentially, and then they end up in your neck of the woods, which is modifications first off, and then eventually the classic. After enough time, they're considered the classics. Which I think is funny that the '79 Celica Supra that I bought is now considered a classic.
Yep.
Damn it!
If that doesn't age you, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's a life cycle, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely want to encourage that life cycle, because at the end of the day, these vehicles will change hands, and so will the passion. So we want to make sure that the community is just as engaged as we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was looking at some of the comments here that we're getting in the live feed, which are great. So thank you for all these great comments. Chris Dorton, her husband has several 50s and 60s model DeSotos and Dodges.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Awesome. I love it at sodas.
Let's see. So really appreciate the how about my 84 Volvo DL?
It's a super classic. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about your passion for Subarus that started at a very young age. Now, are you a tinkerer? You like to tinker, or are you tinkering for a purpose? Meaning, I just want to go faster. I want to corner faster. Because I see some pictures. I looked through some of your social media stuff. You're on the racetracks. You're out at the events. I mean, you're living the that car dream. I think there are a lot of people that envy what you're able to do on a daily basis. So, what kind of car enthusiast are you?
I'd say on the tinkering level. So when it came to the car, it's almost kind of like learning about yourself while you're also learning about the car, right? So when the suspension was starting to fail, you start to price compare. What's my options? You can get, a used OEM part or a new OEM part, and then you're looking at aftermarket. But then when you get into the aftermarket world, you have so many options, because typically those aftermarket products are purpose built for something specific, right? So type of motorsports, or maybe it's just street driving, so on and so forth. And there's other capabilities, right? With everything else. So I started to think, have these big grand dreams of I'm going to hit the track. I'm going to do grip racing. I'm going to join NASA. I'm going to get a lot of seat time. And so I upgraded the coilovers, and which was great. They're still running great. I'm very thankful for that. They've got over 100,000 miles on it. I'm very surprised.
Wow.
But it did get to a point where I started upgrading the car with that mindset. But then, life happens too. So you're learning about budgeting and realizing that maybe those $4,000 brakes wasn't the best idea when you have this big picture in mind. And then there was other things I learned about the car, which I wish I had done the research beforehand. For example, the transmission in the 2002, 2003 WRX is pretty weak, and they're known to not be able to handle a high level of horsepower. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just upgrade it. And then I started doing the pricing and all that, and realized I'd probably be better off just buying a different car from factory, better set up, than to jump all this money into a car that has aged technology, So I already got to a point, so I had to decide, okay, well, what's my next step? And that's where I started to get more involved in the community, because I felt like I needed to learn more, but there's only so much you can learn by reading, right? So going to events to start connecting with people who could maybe guide me a little better. And that just kind of spiraled into, I really want to be part of this industry. So I started picking up skill sets that would potentially help me get into this industry. And that's kind of how I ended up here. But yeah, so originally it was supposed to be a track car. Maybe at some point it will be, but there's so much that's got to be updated on that car. I have plastic pieces are falling apart because it's Arizona and it's hot here. There's pieces that need to be replaced. And so I'm like in a restoration project now. Point, it's like I feel like I need to find a different vehicle that may be better suited for the track.
So are you, is it your daily, well, pre-COVID? I mean, we always kind of sort of have to have all these conversations, pre-COVID, now COVID.
A little disclaimer, right.
Right. So pre-COVID, was it your daily driver, or is it sitting in your garage and you have another daily driver?
I do have another daily driver. So back in 2012, I purchased a Toyota Tacoma pre-runner. So that's my daily. It's not the best. So I'm in the market for a different daily, because it's like 18 miles a gallon. Not great, but it's a great truck altogether. Forever. But so yeah, right now the Subaru is like a weekend driver. It currently has a fuel leak, so I need to figure that out.
Oh no.
Types of cars. I have all the parts, but I think you have to like move the manifold in order to get to where the fuel rails are or something like that. It's just a really intense job that the Arizona heat is not allowing at this point. So.
Right. Yeah. You need to do that in the middle of winter when,
Exactly.
it's a nice 72 degrees. So
exactly.
amazing. Now, are you in Phoenix or another part of Arizona when you say Arizona?
Technically Glendale, but it's
Okay, Glendale. Yeah. Yeah. We have, we have an employee that lives in Glendale. So that's awesome. And we also have another employee on our staff who does drift cars, Jimmy Mondragon. I'll give him a little shout out. He does drift cars and you know him. So that's how we connected with you. So we really appreciate Jimmy bringing you on to the show. We may know a dealer. Yeah, so we can help you with that daily. I'm sure Jimmy.
So here's Jimmy probably is going to be able to maybe either talk me into it or out of it, but I'm looking for a Lotus Exige.
Whoa.
So, very particular.
Yeah.
I fell in love with Lotus after I was able to drive an Evora GT. So I'd like one of those if you've got anything out there.
So we talked about this too, and those that follow Insignia know that I've had a little fun with my 2016 VW Passat, and where that car, I purchased that car in a little bit of a sort of, we had just won the VW agreement, and so it was kind of the right thing to do as the business owner to represent the brand that just signed up with us. I think if I could have that kind of a fun driving car, I would agree with you. I've always thought the Lotus is just so cool looking. So either that or an Audi. Say what?
It's actually pretty reliable because the engine's a Toyota engine. I believe the Exige, I think it's almost the same as the Camry engine in it.
Really?
Yeah, so it's pretty reliable when it comes to at least that. So I'm like in that ballpark, and as far as price range goes, they're pretty. I think they're around like 40, 45. So it's not bad for a sports car of that caliber. So
yeah.
Consider.
And I'm on the tail end of having kids at home. So I've had 3 kids. So a small, fun runner has not been an option up to this point. So I still have one at home. And so, I think I'll have to wait to get my fun runner. But either that or I have to say the one place that I did realize that I became a driving snob. So back to that Toyota Celica Supra. It really was a car ahead of its time. It had a V6 in it. It had a power suspension on it, and it had cruise control, which didn't work at the time. 10 years later, and it was super fast when I got it, and I wore it out like crazy. So I realized I liked fast driving cars. So fast forward through, through early parenthood and all that kind of stuff, I got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready for, a cool car. And I test drove everything from Acuras to Cadillacs to anything that I could drive that was sporty, like a CTS-V and all that stuff. I drove all of it. And the car I fell in love with was a 9.3 Aero Saab.
Oh.
And talk about a smooth car. That car was out of this world. And love that car until the day that they filed like triple bankruptcy. And I was like, and I say triple, but I mean, it's like they went through various levels of bankruptcy. And I remember in 2011, the beginning of 2011 is when they filed for they're getting dissolved. The Chinese bought their technology. GM has shut down everything. There's going to be no parts. I was like, I got to get rid of this car. I had my eye on at that time what was called a 9.3 Aero, and it was called the Vader. Now I'm a huge Star Wars nut, so for me to get a car that's
perfect, Vader,
that'd be it. So if I could just be like, whatever, I want whatever, and money was no option, and parts were no option, and upkeep was not, it would be a 9.3 Aero Vader. because
So believe it or not, there was a point in time, I don't know the manufacturing dates, but there was a point in time where Saab was actually utilizing Subaru components.
oh really?
As far as parts goes, you never know. You might be able to just like some of those Subaru components. There's a certain year, I don't remember which year it is, year and model, but we used to call them Sabarus because they resembled so closely to Subarus and they utilized a lot of their components. So some fun fact, it might still be possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's see. Does taking my car to Jiffy Lube for an oil change constitute tinkering? No, Patrick Blackburn. Patrick, by the way, is our team member in Glendale. So no, Patrick, that's not a tinkerer.
If he lives in Glendale, I can definitely show him how to change his oil.
So yeah, let's shift gears a bit and let's talk about the effects of everything that's going on. How has that affected your business? How has it affected, obviously it's affecting your 2021 car show, the future car collector show, or is it? So I guess, kind of walk us through sort of the effects that have happened for you guys.
So we've definitely been very fortunate. I think that's the best word, because being a digital product, a digital service, moving to remote as a company was pretty quick and easy. And we've been able to continue our launch of our new online auction platform as well, called Auto Hunter. So we've been very fortunate. We're also in the midst of getting new staff and so on. So again, very, very fortunate. But as far as the collector car market, we actually recently conducted a survey directly against our audience, our current audience. So didn't push a survey out anywhere else other than on our marketplace. And we actually, I think it was 60% of that survey were people that were looking to buy or sell their collector car in the next year. So believe it or not, the market, like you were saying with some of the dealers, the market is actually still very healthy. And if anything, is moving into a more healthy position because of the flexibility and the fluctuations in the stock market. So we looked at if they saw collector cars as a more viable investment than other types of investments like stocks and so on. And we actually, I think we had about 43% commit to the fact that they saw vehicles, collector cars, as a better investment, because these, as we've seen before, so we were established in 2007. So in 2008, we had that housing market crash, right?
Yep.
We saw the data from that and was able to actually see that even during those types of times, the market is still healthy and vibrant because of how stable collector cars are as an investment. Obviously, there's some certain makes and models that kind of fluctuate with what's going on with manufacturers and so on. But for the most part, there's a large percentage of those vehicles that maintain. So our website traffic has gone up significantly. So buyers are coming to our website more so. We've seen, I think it was like a 30% increase in the last 3 months. And even on the social networks, just very, very active. People are browsing cars, they're spending more time at home. So it means more time on the internet, and browsing at some of the cars that either they're interested in now or maybe buying for in the future.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I had never even considered that investors would move to cars as a way to retain value. And isn't that funny that we are so conditioned as car buyers that as soon as you buy it and drive it over the curb, it just lost its value. So, you gotta wait, you gotta go down that continuum pretty far to have it start. I mean, who would have known that my 79 Celica Super would be worth 15 grand today if I could have kept it in good shape? That's ridiculous.
And there's so many people who have gone through that, right? I never should have gotten rid of it, or, maybe I should have retained its originality for X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. But we also are now facing what we call an instant classic. So there are vehicles that are made in small quantities, or maybe something like the 2020 Corvette, where when the COVID hit, the manufacturing process has been hindered, right? So the number that are going to get manufactured as the first batch might actually be way less because of COVID. So that actually may make them more valuable. So there's instant classics like that. I think we could potentially qualify the new Supra as an instant classic. The GT, the Ford GT was an instant classic when it came out with their new model. So it's an interesting world. It definitely is.
Yeah, very much so. So let's talk about SEMA, and while we do, I'm going to ask, we've got a lot of active comments, so I really appreciate all the comments out there. If anybody has a comment for Rebecca, pop it onto the feed here, and I'll read it off to her. So let's talk about SEMA, because we also chatted about this yesterday in our rehearsal. When I saw the very first posts for SEMA, 2020 SEMA, there were more angry emojis than there were happy emojis. And the angry emojis were, how can you possibly, think of having SEMA this year, and blah, blah, blah. And no politics aside, give me your thoughts on, their, and let me fast forward so I don't get you in trouble here. So fast forward, I guess as recently as the last 2 weeks, I'm seeing more and more thumbs up emojis and more love emojis and if any, angry emojis. So it sounds like SEMA 2020 is going to happen. I guess share your thoughts on the prospect of having a 2020 SEMA and what it could look like.
Yeah, so they released a video recently just announcing all of the changes that they're making in order to conduct a successful and safe SEMA 2020. And in my personal opinion, if anyone is going to lead this new norm that we may be facing, if anyone's going to do it, I am thankful that it's SEMA, because they have the resources, they have the right people in place that are influential. They connect with all types of leaders, and it's not just the SEMA board and so on. They connect directly with the market and the industry to make these decisions. So of all people to set this new standard, if it is a new standard, this is the best person to do it, the best company, the best brand to do it. So I am very thankful that it's still occurring. I'm very thankful that this is potentially going to be the prime example of how we can continue with our events and continue the culture, the industry, and the passion. So I'm excited for them to do it. I really hope that this is going to be a shining bright star in automotive events, because that's, at the end of the day, the cars that we buy, it's because we want to feel them, touch them, hear them. And when we can't do that, we get a little stir crazy.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think the challenges that they have are almost overwhelming when you think of the little details. And I've been going to SEMA since I think 2004. So I've seen it from 2004, then through the downturn, the 2008-9, and then coming all the way back. In the last 2, 3, 4 years. Just absolutely packed. I cannot ever remember. I think last year and the year before last, I've never seen it so busy the whole week and so jam packed. So when you've got that many people coming into kind of that space, the logistics are going to be pretty overwhelming to go through. And like many other industries, talking about this in other podcasts and stuff like that, such as the entertainment industry, live entertainment industry, just trying to figure out, how do you bring people in, how do you entertain them, and then how do you send them home safely? SEMA's got their hands full to figure out how to move that many people around, move that many people around in the convention center. So we will definitely look forward to. It sounds like you are thinking that your team will be out there, correct?
I don't know if it's definite just yet, just because of Arizona being such a hot spot. So it's still definitely up for discussion, especially with the new online auction platform. We definitely have some some messages to get out there. We always send out journalists to contribute to the journal, so we'll at least have that presence.
Yeah. Yeah. So, part of our primary audience here are folks who are sales professionals in dealerships. And so what's interesting is there is definitely, I call it an unfortunate culture of sort of the us against them, OE versus aftermarket. And Insignia has always tried to ride that thin line and try to stay right on that line to say, it's both and, it's not one or the other. So what would you say to a room full of, eager salespeople to sell cars? What would you say from the perspective of, the aftermarket and the classic cars and help sort of educate? What would you do to educate that room full of salespeople?
I definitely recommend, if you have not invested in digital advertising, that is the avenue right now. And platforms like ours, you're directly targeting an audience that is looking for a specific vehicle that is way more educated when it comes to some of the specifications that you may be handling if it's an aftermarket classic or collector car. So that digital market is really going to help you extend your reach and find the right buyer. And finding the right buyer also means finding the right price too. It's finding that buyer that will appreciate what you have to offer, and then also be able to understand what it takes to get that car as well. So we also have resource partners on our website, specifically for insurance, transport companies we partner with and recommend. So having a one-stop shop that not only will get your car in front of other enthusiasts, but also offering them the other resources in order to make that transaction if it's on the other side of the country or so on. So getting into that digital atmosphere is definitely going to be the key to success at this point during this COVID situation.
Yeah, one thing I think about, pick up on that, I think that's great advice. We in our when our podcast was an audio podcast, we interviewed a guy out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and he calls himself Toyota Jeff. And Toyota Jeff has got, I think he's up to like 50,000 followers on YouTube. He does these great videos. He's been doing videos all through COVID that have been really funny. And he started as a salesperson. And one of his main messages in that podcast was, look, the more videos you do, the more digital things that you do, the more people get to know you as a salesperson in a store. And I think, to couple in with what you're talking about, digital platforms and finding ways to communicate with customers, it's a great thinking of trying to bring all those things together to bear to make you a better salesperson. And again, to connect one of our other great guests, the guy I referenced at the beginning, Greg, his philosophy is the selling vehicle personalization and selling accessories has to be part of just how you sell a car. And so, I think what we fail to remember just in our whole industry is that when someone comes onto a car lot to buy a car, they are that enthusiast that you're talking about, right? They're down the continuum. They're just starting with a new piece of metal that's going to move down that continuum. But those folks are already, they might have a classic car sitting at home,
Right, absolutely.
And if you don't ask that question, you don't get into understanding what kind of person they are and how, how they view their vehicle. I think you're taking away an opportunity. So I think you're absolutely right. Really investing in the knowledge of the digital platforms that are out there and just getting involved in the community. So let's kind of wrap things up and finish off talking about the Subaru community that you're in. Are you active in that? And do you go pre-COVID again? Disclaimer.
Right.
Do you go to those shows and you show your car off and it sounds like you stay pretty active then?
I do. I try to stay as active as I can in the local community. It's been tough nowadays, being the marketing manager for ClassicCars.com. I've had my plate full, thankfully, right? We're very fortunate.
Right.
But yes, I definitely try to stay in touch with the local community, or even out of state and so on. But I actually have grown, I would say, outside of just the Subaru community. I've established a passion kind of for every type of car, maybe even motorcycles. I've attended quite a few of those events as well. But I like just connecting with all types of enthusiasts and learning more about all types of cars. And attending like Good Guys, some of the auctions, or maybe it's an import show of some sort, or it's a concours in like in Monterey. I just really love connecting with all types of enthusiasts, because you'll never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to learn about a car that may not be on the internet, because you wouldn't know unless you actually own that car.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for being on the show. Our podcast here, Next Up Accessories. If someone would like to get in touch with you, how would they do that? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can do it either through social media or email. So on social media, if you want to get me through the ClassicCars.com Facebook page or Instagram, you can definitely reach me there. Otherwise, you can email marketing@classiccars.com, and I'm sure I'll get your email.
Awesome. Well, we are going to wrap the show. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. We had a nice audience, lots of comments. So, Rebecca, if you wanted to go back through those comments and respond to some of those, not many questions, but a lot of good comments to say reinforced our conversation. So, until next time, I'm David Stringer, and this has been Next Up Accessories, where we connect your next up and vehicle personalization to help you make more money and happier customers. For more information about Insignia, check out our website, insigniagroup.com. Check us out on all of our social media platforms. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. And we will see you next time. Our next show is August 5th at 1 p.m. right back here on Facebook. And then you can catch it on our audio podcast that will release shortly thereafter. So thanks very much, Rebecca. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you out at SEMA. And we'll check in with you again down the road. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.